Hello, everyone, and we are here with our keynote, Jonah Berger. You have been fantastic. I think a lot of people enjoyed listening to you speak. You just flow naturally, and it's been very interesting to hear your stories. I think one of the most interesting stories you had was against all things that people think marketing should be. Can we hear a little bit more about that story?
Sure, yeah, so I think often in marketing, we think it's all about sort of saying something loudly. Right? We want to tell people where we are, we want to tell people what we're offering. We think sort of more information is better, right? We want to scream from the top of the hills why we're so great. But there's a great story I told during the talk, and I'll tell it again here, about a place in New York City. So imagine you're hungry, you're walking around the Lower East Side, your stomach is rumbling, you got to get a bite to eat. When you see a big hot dog shaped sign with the words "Eat Me" written on it, would look like mustard. So I'm hungry, I haven't had a hot dog in a while, I'll check this place out. So you walk down a flight of stairs into a restaurant called Criff Dogs, great hot dog restaurant, dozens of different hot dogs, they're all amazing. But when you finish your hot dog, in the corner of the room is a phone booth. If you go inside, there's like a rotary phone on the side wall. So think about that thing at your grandparents' house, where you stick your finger and you go around in a circle. So you stick your finger in the number 2 or 3, go around in a circle, hold the receiver up to your ear. The phone will actually ring. And it'll go ring, ring, and then someone will ask you if you have a reservation. If you have a reservation, or
Who
if they
has
have
reservations
space,
for hot dogs?
Oh, nobody has reservations, right? But if they have space, the back of that phone booth will open, and you'll be led into a secret bar called Please Don't Tell. And Please Don't Tell has violated all the traditional laws of marketing, right? There's no sign on the street, there's no sign inside the restaurant. They've done everything they can to make it difficult to find, and yet every day they're full. And the reason why is very simple, right? If you think about, there's a little secret about secrets. If you think about the last time someone told you something, right, and they told you not to tell anyone, think about what you did with that information, right? You probably said, oh, I better tell someone.
Went and told.
Right? Because having access to information that not everyone else has makes you look smart and makes you look in the know. It gives you what I call social currency. And so I think too often as brands, we think, well, let me tell people why I'm great. Let me tell people why they should buy from us. But the challenge is when we do that so much, we crowd out other people's opportunity to do that work. And we make it so that they're not introducing it to other people, right? And 15, 20 years ago, it used to be talking about big brands, right? If you went to a party and you showed up with Jack Daniels, that was the cool thing to show up with.
Or a pair of Nikes.
A bottle of Grey Goose. Whereas now you want to show up from like the whiskey from Eastern Kentucky that's like small batch
that no one knows about.
No one's heard of, that you get to introduce them to, right? Because it shows your connoisseurship. And so that's what the idea of social currency is about, right? Rather than yelling why we're so great, allowing people, right, to look good themselves by having access to information that not everyone else has. It's not just about secrets. Anything that's scarce, exclusive, make people look smart, special, in the know, and makes them want to share.
That is really interesting because I'm seeing that a lot on social media these days. You go on Twitter, and if a brand is just talking about themselves, no one's listening, no one's engaging, no one's interacting. So that brings me to my second question. You did bring up, well, a lot of brands here asked, how do I work with influencers? How do I get on social media? How do I get people talking about my brand? What makes my brand contagious? How do I get contagious?
So I'd say a couple things. I think the more important thing than influencers is about understanding the behavioral science. Right? You and I, everybody, talk about things for free all the time, right? We talk about vacations we went on, restaurants we like, services we hate, apps we've tried, not because someone paid us, not because we're influencers, but because it fit with our psychology, right? It made us look good, that social currency. It's top of mind, that idea of triggers. It provides practical value, useful information to others. It's part of a story, right? That S in the STEPS framework. And so don't start with influencers, start with understanding why people share, right? Because billions of people share online for free every day. If we're gonna use influencers, I'm not against influencers, but we wanna think about what we're buying, right? Often we are buying reach and not impact, right? Often people don't trust influencers as much as they trust their friends. But if my best friend says something, he tends to know about music. If he says this is a good album, I'll listen to it, right? Because he knows more about music than I do. If an influencer says something is great, I go, well, is it actually great, or did they get paid? Right?
Very discerning.
Yeah, and so they're very good at spreading awareness, just like advertising spreads awareness, but they're not as trusted as peers. And so I'm not saying don't invest in influencers, right? But if you are, make sure they're having that engagement, not just that audience size, but that engagement that's actually leading to sales, right? Use something like a coupon code and measure redemptions and see what's actually working. I also think for my druthers, my personal opinion, it's almost often more effective to just give away the product for free. Rather than paying someone to talk about it, get a whole bunch of people that are already in that space that already might be interested in it, or give them that experience. This is what freemium does, right? When people talk about product-led growth, it's giving away that product for free, or at least an experience with it for free, to encourage it to generate long-term value, but also word of mouth.
I think I've seen quite a few brands do this successfully, is they'll give the product for free, but they'll also elevate the influencer's experience or the customer's experience.
Yeah.
So being in beautiful packaging, coming with a personalized note, just making the experience share-worthy.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, so talk about social currency. I did an event a few years ago in Central America, and when I checked in, I was like, what's the Wi-Fi, as you often do hotels? And they're like, oh, the Wi-Fi is your name, and the password is contagious. And I was like, I don't know how you did this. This is amazing. I told a whole bunch of people, probably security risk, not clear from an IT perspective, it's a good idea. But from a making me feel special standpoint, right? Like, that was a pretty cool experience. And so anytime we make people feel special, that's an opportunity to get them to talk and share. But that's just one of the 6 steps.
And that doesn't cost them anything, really.
No.
Like, it's
just
a brilliant
It costs
touch.
them thinking about it. It costs them understanding their customers.
Sorry, one more thing. You did bring up in your STEPS program, is it a program or
framework,
mentality, a framework?
Yes, a program sounds like something else, so I'd say a framework.
Now, is that your original framework?
Yes.
The steps?
Yeah.
Okay, wow, amazing.
Yeah.
Can you touch on those 6 steps for us really quickly?
Yeah, so STEPS is with 2 Ps. So the S is social currency, the T is triggers, the E is emotion, the P is practical value, the second P is public, and the last S is stories. And so that's come from the research that I and colleagues have done in this space. We've looked at thousands of pieces of online content, tens of thousands of brands, millions of purchases. Again and again, this stuff comes
You guys
up.
have done the work.
We did a big project a number of years ago. We looked at 6 months of New York Times articles, every article written by the paper, to understand what content led people to share it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You brought up stories, and I think we've been talking about how to tell stories better.
Yep.
I think a lot of the brands here also were asking, how can they develop the Trojan horse storytelling? Panda Cheese was brilliant. Thank you for playing 3 of those videos. I was laughing out loud. I think the whole crowd was laughing out loud. I'm glad. I've never heard of that brand, though.
Yes,
Where
it's an Egyptian company. It's an Egyptian company. So
okay,
you go to Egypt, they're a very popular cheese, but not in the U.S.
We will clip that video in this video, just so people can also enjoy it. But tell me a little bit more about how people can develop their kernel and their Trojan horse story.
Yeah, I mean, I think developing our kernel is like basic marketing 101, right? What's our point of differentiation? What's the way that we separate ourselves from the competition, or maybe we're not different than the competition on this dimension, we just show it better. Right? So like, please don't tell, I showed that video as well. It's not clear that no other blenders can chop up things like iPhones.
Yeah.
They just figured out how to show it.
Right.
And so I would start by thinking about what is that point of differentiation, or what is that attribute that we want to focus on? And that's sort of traditional marketing 101. Then I think, though, the bigger question is, how do we find that story that shows it?
Right.
And I think a lot of companies go, well, oh God, I got to be super creative, and how do I figure it out? And I would say actually start by sourcing the stories from other places. Right? The best stories aren't usually ones that we just come up with. Our customers tell stories about us, we're a big brand in particular, every day. Right? There are thousands of people sharing stories about us every day. Some are good, some are bad, some are memorable, some are not. Let's start by mining those stories. Right? Let's talk to our employees and say, hey, our retail employees, what are stories you tell about the brand? Let's talk to our customers if we have touch points with them. What are stories you tell about the brand? Use those for insight. That's a great place to start, by figuring out what are those great stories, and then using a hub and spoke model, right? We source the stories and then push them back out. And so we don't have to create them, we don't have to be really clever, we just have to find them, be story finders, and then sharpen them and push them back out there.
So here at CRMC, I think most people, we've been doing this for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
I think most people enjoy relationship building.
Yes.
So I think that's our kernel.
Yes.
And, I've been doing the social media for CRMC this year, and I don't want to talk about how great we are all the time. And I've found a lot of great success by showing people just how wonderful the people are that come.
Yes.
And how excited they are to be here.
Yeah.
Is this your first year at CRMC?
It is.
Okay,
yes.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, we're so happy to have you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for being a wonderful keynote. Thank you for meeting with me.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you are excited about at CRMC? Anything seeing or meeting anyone?
Yeah, I think the speaker just before me talked about sort of what they're doing in the AI space and sort of using data and language data for insight. And this is obviously the future of marketing in general, right? How can we both create language, a lot of attention to large language models, but also how can we mine language for insight, right? Whether it's social listening online to design products and services based on what people are saying, whether it's using language to segment customers and figure out who to get targeted offers, there's a lot of unstructured data out there that we can mine for insight. And so a lot of the research I'm doing at the moment is leveraging natural language processing and other tools to extract insight.
Yeah, well, maybe you'll have to come back next year and
I'd be
tell
happy
us a little bit more
I'd love
about
to.
that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jonah. This
Thanks
was
for having me.
wonderful.
Appreciate
Lovely
it.
to meet